care about someone, you help them grow and feel connected in good times and bad. Growing up, there were many aunts, uncles, grandparents, cousins, friends, and even parents of friends who shared in caring for me, my sisters, and our whole family. A blessing and gift to not only my sisters and me, but also to my mom. This simple act of one person caring for another is perhaps life's greatest value. And in social services context, we recognize this as kinship care. Whether this care is formal or informal, provided by relative or non-relative, we recognize that caring for someone is already heroic. So why shouldn't we go out and do the most we can to support those who are busy being a hero for someone? And in doing so, help make kinship much more than a placement. Hi everyone, I'm Rich Bolin, Vice President of Child Welfare here at Northwoods, and this is Human Services Huddle. In today's video, we'll be talking about making kinship last and how technology can be applied to your child welfare agency's practice. So with that, we'll jump into a quick demo of Northwoods Traverse. So Northwoods Traverse is a tool that we have developed over a number of years, working directly with staff, supervisors, agency directors, practice and policymakers all across the United States. And when we first started collecting a lot of information, we were taking agencies that were largely paper driven and really looking to digitize or modernize the way that they were operating by getting things in a much more electronic format. Once we had done that and we'd perfected that and really had become very well versed in doing that, the next thing agencies asked us to do was say, hey, is there an easy way that now that we have this digital, is there an easier way that we can really start to understand what's contained in all that information? So what we are happy to share with you is that is what Traverse does. Traverse is a system that takes all that content, regardless of the way that that content comes in or how it was received or where it was received. Once we get the information into Traverse, Traverse actually uses some text and descriptive analytics methods to begin to understand exactly what is in all the information. So what you see in front of you now is a case. This is a real case. We have sanitized it to protect the confidentiality nature of the names and addresses associated with the documents in this case, but it is a real case. The thing I'm going to show you first when we get started with Traverse is the way that we set Traverse up so it was easy for workers to navigate. We want workers focused on being able to answer the questions that they have swimming in their heads and not worrying about how the technology has to work or where I got to click on things. So just as a quick orientation, here near the top is a green banner with a series of tabs that allow me to access the content in different ways. It's all the same content, just arranged and organized in a way that a worker may want to approach that. Below that are a number of panels that just begin to give a worker some indication of what they might find in those areas. So there's different ways that you can get there. We have yet to find any two workers that do their work exactly the same. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to, on these tabs, I'm going to slide over to what we refer to as content. And by clicking on content, Traverse takes me over to the page that shows me a list of every document that is in this case. And as you can see in this case, there are 711 documents. You know as well as I do that that doesn't mean there's 711 pages. There could be, most of these documents have not only more than 5 pages, but some of them are 30 and 40 pages long. This particular case, we counted just shy of 2,000 total pages. So you can imagine for a worker who is looking to help support a child who is in need of staying someplace safe for the moment. We don't know if it's going to be a placement, if it's short-term, long-term, if it's overnight, but I don't want to put this child through more than they have to do. It should be easier for me to identify who does this child already know, how can I reach out to them and see if they might be able to help out, especially if it's somebody that's familiar to the child. But again, when there's 711 documents in this case, that could be an overwhelming task. Not only are there 711 documents in this case, if I scroll to the bottom of this list, I can see that I can skip all the way to the last document in this case file and see that this information goes all the way back to 2000. So you can imagine that throughout growing up, all of us have had different people that have come in and out of our lives. Some of those people are well known and we still know them today. And then there's other people that were very much appreciated and valued and cared for us. And we may not even, had known it at the time, but they were important parts of our lives. And somehow over the course of time, they've become disconnected. So what if there was a way to fully appreciate all of the people that have been in and out of a case life? So what I'm going to do is, while I'm here in content, I'm going to utilize this search bar. This we refer to this as our content search bar. So I'm going to click into that search area. And now, having clicked into that search area, what I'm able to do in this search bar is I can type anything I want, kind of like a Google, right? Like I'm searching text, character for character of what I can find in this case. So a lot of times it's one thing if I know a name, right? If I know names of people, I can just kind of find those names. I can look different ways for those names. But sometimes when we're talking to our kids that we're working with, and we say, listen, if there's someplace that you could stay just for a little bit, where would you like to stay? And sometimes our kids tell us, can I stay with a friend? Can I stay with the coach? Well, what's your friend's name? They're my friend. Or, what's your coach's name? I don't know. I call him coach. That's not an easy thing to do when you're looking for a name. This is where our content search comes in as a help. What I can do in this section of this content, I'm going to go ahead and type in the term coach. And either by hitting enter or selecting the magnifying glass, I can ask Traverse to search through all 711 documents. And out of all 711 documents, again, just shy of 2,000 pages, there is not only one document, it was an email communication that somebody in 2017 sent where the term coach was represented, right? So I can see Heather Brown, 6th grade teacher. I get a little snippet here to say that's what this is. I can open this document to actually see. Sure enough, I see the school, I see the teacher's name, I see the grade. I got a lot more information now about this person. So I got this little kiddo that's worried about what's going to happen, and they just want to have a familiar face someplace just to kind of relax and take in what all is happening with their family. Imagine if you could reach out to their coach and say, hey, could Jenny stay with you just for a little bit until we figure out what's going on with mom, dad, and everybody else? A familiar face and a friendly shoulder for this kiddo, somebody that they already know, somebody that they already trust, and somebody that cares about them. They're represented in the case. Another way that we've seen this used a lot, again, is even before I go to talk to a child and ask them who, I may want to have an idea of, do they have friends? Are there people that I can ask them about more specifically? So I'm going to go ahead and type in friend in that same search area. Clicking on friend, I can see again, Traverse says, listen, I've looked at all those documents, 711 documents. I looked and I found 6 of them. It tells me up here. You're looking at one of 6 documents where a term friend has appeared. I can look very quickly at this little snippet and it says, hey, they stated that they have a friend, Sarah Wells, who lives at this address. Again, I can open this up and I can see more information about exactly where this person lives, who it is, other people that may be connected. So what was really important for us is to say, listen, if we could start to recognize the potential of having a holistic view of the case history, what would that mean for setting up a family team meeting? Who would we invite? If we wanted to see if there were tutors and mentors and others who could help, maybe just provide transportation, how easy would it be to simply type into my search bar and begin looking for folks like that? The goal that we had, that we heard from many of the folks that we worked with in the agencies is, listen, once we learn of a situation, we know that something's going to happen immediately just to assure safety. We don't want to subject them to a long process and get, maybe not even get court involved yet, maybe not get foster care involved yet. But even in understanding that, the goal that everyone shared with us was we need to make whatever this initial placement, right, or this initial move that's going to happen for this young person. We want to make sure that initial move is not only going to be their first, but it's going to be their last, that they don't have to keep coming back to this, that we can have somebody that actually is going to be able to support them long-term as needed, whether they go home and they still provide a support, or whether they're going to stay with this relative or non-relative caregiver. So one of the things that we found that was really important in making that successful is, it's one thing to have the caregiver, but sometimes that caregiver needs support. A lot of times our kinship placements fall through because it just got too much for them. There's other people that are involved in this case that we want to bring to the table to say, hey, listen, can you help out with some of these things, babysitting, transportation, maybe attending a school meeting or things like that. So what we asked Traverse to do is, instead of having me have to type and search a random number of things, we went ahead, and I'm going to slide over on the tabs here again, and there's a tab that's called People. And by selecting People, I see a panel on the left-hand side that says, listen, in your state case management system, we know that you've taken careful time to do very diligent data entry to identify these very specific people, who they are and what their role is. A lot of times these are the immediate family members or those that are closely connected to a case. So Traverse pulls out that over and says, hey, these are the people that are in this case through your case management system. In addition to that, Traverse says, listen, I found 165 mentions of other names in this case. And I even get a count on how prevalent those names are within this case. The people that are the top 15, top 20, you probably know, they're probably some of the same people that your case management system has. But what I can do is I can invert this order to say, who are the people I don't know very much, don't know very much about or know very well, or that the family's not even offering as a name for me to consider because they may have lost contact with them and don't know that they still may be interested. By inverting that order, I can see a list of names that appear in Traverse. And what it means when they appear here, that means Traverse has gone and found them. The very first thing workers wanted to do was, well, since it found it, gosh, I wish I could see why they are in this case. So what we made it possible to do is simply by hovering over the name, I get my little selection hand. I can click that. Traverse takes the worker back to the content page, auto fills in the search bar, and actually says, I've already got the content item or the document, and I've already highlighted the name. So cutting down on those things that workers have to do, listen, you show me a name, I should click on it and show me why they're in here and why that's important. Again, I can open this document, and by opening the document, the reason that we do this text version is that's the way we do our analytics. If I wanted to see the actual document, I can click over on the banner above. It shows a little picture, little icon, and I can click on that and it shows me the actual document. Hopefully. And there's the actual document and all the page. I can, I have the ability to show this in a thumbnail version, so I can see, just like you do with a lot of other document reading capabilities, I can see all of those type of things. But I want to stay in the text version, and I can see where Gina's name is mentioned. What was really interesting about this document was this is a kinship. You can see at the top here, it says this is a kinship home assessment, right? So there was already an evaluation done for consideration of this child going with, in this case, it's Tom and Kristen, who are the aunt and uncle. But what's important, right, is Tom and Kristen said, listen, we also get supports. We have, in fact, we have great supports, and that is Charlie and Gina, right? So this is Tom and Kristen's parents who said, listen, if something ever happens, we lean on them. Well, in a case of kinship, when we're getting ready to make that decision, we can go ahead and identify these supports that can support kinship. Or if Tom and Kristen said, hey, back then it was a good opportunity for us, things have changed, we really can't do that now, we already know that they identified other great supports such as Charlie and Gina, who we could reach out to. So the ability to quickly find those things, I'm going to go back to my people tab. The ability to not only quickly identify the people in this, but to find out why they're involved has been really important. Another thing that we found workers really enjoy doing is not only inverting the order of, you know, the most frequent to the least frequent, they've also used this arrow to say, could you arrange these alphabetically? And the reason that that has become helpful is when I do this by alphabet, I can slide down and find things like doctors, Dr. Alfred, Dr. Sweet, Dr. Walker, different ways that workers have used it. Again, we've not seen any two workers go about doing their work exactly the same. So there's lots of options, the way that they can go and find different people in the case. One of the last things that I want to show you is what we mean by connections. So just above mentions here and just under your tabs, you see a section, another panel that's called connections. So what Traverse is doing now is when it finds names like Kristen or Gina Soupy, or in this case, Greg White or Rita Smith, it looks at that name and then starts to look for another name in close proximity to it. And when it finds those two names, it starts to describe the content that's being represented between those two names. So in this example, it says Greg White is the counselor for Jenny. The workers haven't done any data entry. All the workers clear back to 2000 never had to do any data entry to say that Greg White is the counselor for Jenny. In fact, when I look at my panel on the left, all the information that I brought over from my state case management system did not identify for me that Jenny has a good relationship or has a relationship with a counselor named Greg White. Traverse found that. Again, I didn't have to ask Traverse to do it. It didn't have to be specific. Just because the Traverse was reading the case file, it determined that. I can further verify that Greg White is actually the counselor for Jenny by going down here. And since I already have this in alphabetical order, I'll slide down to the G's. And sure enough, there's Greg White. I can see, in fact, he was only mentioned 5 times in this case. When I open Greg White, again, you see he's populated, and sure enough, Jenny will continue to attend counseling with Greg White. So I wanted to show you, just take a second to show you that, to say that Traverse is really, really accurate about that. The only way that it shows up in connection is it has to have that degree of accuracy. It has to be that sure that that's the nature of that relationship. So again, as it relates to kinship, who we bring to the table, who we include in our planning, who we even begin to ask the family about that they may want to share, may not share, Traverse has the ability to identify those things and give workers a leg up as they start to go out and have these conversations with families. So I hope you've enjoyed seeing how Traverse helps support efforts to keep our kids with those who they already have a relationship with, because we know that children do best when they are able to be with family. We believe that not only helping kiddos get with those who care about them as quickly as possible, but supporting the ability to stay there as long as needed gives families the best chance at a better tomorrow. My name is Rich Bolin, and thanks for tuning in to today's Northwoods Human Services Huddle.